Legendary investor and corporate raider Carl Icahn is sounding the alarm on what he calls some major problems in the U.S. economy. Carl Icahn went on CNBC recently and said that the net worth of the median household in the United States is, as he calls it, basically nothing. And he goes on to say, we have some very major problems in our economy. A lot of people in our economy aren't doing well, obviously. Now, what we've always said here is we obviously want people to do well. One of the things that I've said as someone who lives and does business around the world is that we see economies around the world that in your lifetime were nothing. They were written off for dead. They were going nowhere. They are now becoming, in some cases, economic powerhouses. More people are getting jobs. They're getting higher wages. And so as a result, yes, the U.S. economy is growing. Western economies are growing, but they're not going as quickly as some of the other economies in the world. And as a result of this more global economy we have, Carl Icahn is right, unfortunately. A lot of people in Western economies aren't doing well. I think it's important to figure out who's to blame for that. And I would say that it is more the governments than the investors or even the Carl Icahns of the world who are to blame. But Wall Street billionaire Carl Icahn, in an article on MarketWatch, was talked about speaking to CNBC's Closing Bell, talking about the aftermath of emergency action taken by the government to mitigate the impact of the recent large bank failures, 3 of them. The co-founder of Icahn Enterprises said his investment portfolio is set up for more pain in the U.S. economy, which he notes is being buffeted by rapidly rising interest rates and escalating concerns about its overall health as the Fed attempts to prevent inflationary pressures. And so he goes on and talks about how people are having some major problems. And here's where that concerns me. If you are at Carl Icahn's level or even a little bit lower, but you're still successful, people right now are getting scared. Even though you have these record low unemployment rates, even though people are still spending money, I think a lot of people are still scared. They just got through a pandemic. They have insane levels of inflation. The powers that be did not manage really any of that very well. And people really aren't sure. This is a time of great volatility. Now they're seeing banks fail. They're seeing weird gyrations in the stock movement. Bank stocks supposed to be rather stable, plummeting 60% in some cases in a single day. I think a lot of people are scared, even some people who don't have to worry about money. But what happens when people get scared? What do they do? Well, if we look back to the global financial crisis, and I'm not suggesting that is going to happen again. I'm not as much on the doom and gloom side, but I do think what Carl Icahn said makes sense, is that you have people who with inflation, who with not having as big of salary increases, and again, I tie that somewhat to the global economy, they don't have that much money. You've seen the statistics in both the United States and in Canada and Australia. There's very similar statistics. More than half of people can't pay for some small expense, couldn't handle a small emergency. We did a class recently for all of our employees that wanted to show up and talking about just basic money management techniques. And we have people in our company who are building emergency funds, who are setting money aside. And we told them, what sacrifices to make? What do you cut out? What do you stop buying? What do you do to be able to save money? So if something happens, you're covered for at least 6 months and probably closer to a year is what we taught folks. And yet people aren't doing that in the Western world. And so they're going to turn increasingly to the government. You're seeing Joe Biden, same as his former boss, Barack Obama, he's coming with the same playbook. If you make more than $400,000 a year, that's the inflationary number from the $250 that Barack Obama said. That's the impact of inflation. It used to be if you make over $250,000, you're a disgusting animal who got all of your money because Joe Biden was in charge. And now it's $400,000. And so you're seeing politicians play more to the, let us take money from the upper echelon because you got a raw deal. The government doesn't tell you, they never do, that it's the government and their cronies that's the one who made the bad deal happen. You're seeing in Australia right now, the top 0.5% of people who saved money for retirement are going to have their taxes doubled overnight because, hey, the government spent too much money. And hey, it's not going to impact you, so what do you care? We'll just squeeze these people who were productive for our society for all these years. Nobody really cares. Why? Because they're scared. They may not care under general circumstances, but they certainly care less when they're scared. I'm sure I could find some things that I agree with Barack Obama on and that may upset some people. One of the benefits of not living in the United States is I don't have to be a total ideologue. I'm sure there's some things that every politician does. And I'm like, all right, there's some validity to that, even if I don't necessarily think that politicians do much overall. But certainly you can say that Obama came in on the idea of these rich people need to pay up. There were certainly some very unethical people in corporate America at the times who were doing some very unethical things. No doubt they should be punished. But they did. We're going to lump in everyone who built a small business and made it a big business, everyone who did well investing and made a bunch of money, anyone who saved money and built a big retirement account. We're going to lump them in with a few bad apples who work in the banking system. That's basically what they did back when Obama got elected, back when people were scared. They wanted it. They said, yes, everyone who is wealthy must be evil and must be taking advantage of us. They're the source of all of our pain. Please, Obama, come in and fix it. They just recently voted that in Germany, in Australia. You're going to see that in the UK shortly. People are scared. They don't know where to turn, and so they say, oh, let's have more government come in. And so in times of crisis, in times when what Carl Icahn is talking about, you are going to have more people coming for your wealth. Now, what I've been saying here at Nomad Capitalist for a decade is you want to be prepared because this is the direction that the Western world is going. Now, I was a kid and people couldn't afford a small car repair or didn't have money for an emergency. It's always been relatively hand to mouth. And so we can blame inflation, we can blame all that. Let's be honest, you have a large level of consumption in Western economies, which is now spreading. I mean, you look at countries like China that never had consumer debt before, now they're getting into the consumer debt game. You're going to see more countries going down this road. But what you want if you're successful is you want to have an exit plan. Unlike Barack Obama, I do believe you built your business. I do believe you should keep the fruits of your labor. You've already paid plenty in taxes. Whatever claim the government had that they sent you to one of their mediocre public schools, or that they built some roads, you paid enough. If you live in a Western country, you've paid enough. All right? They have roads in Dubai. We have the best roads. They have roads in Singapore. They're much better educated, perhaps in places like Singapore as well. They actually know like math, and 2 + 2 is 4. And somehow they have much lower tax rates and they have very nice roads. So whatever you've paid, believe me, it's been too much. You've done enough. So you built what you have. But now, as more fear comes into the economy, there's talk of a recession, all kinds of, again, gyrations with banks and bank failures. More bank failures, by the way, in the United States in a week than have ever happened in Singapore. 1 week, more bank failures than the entire history. People are going to start to say, hey, next time there's an election, who's going to give me more stuff? They're going in that direction anyway. Half of Canadians, 18 to 24, we want socialism as defined with give me more stuff, give me more freebies. You already have more freebies in Canada than the US. Imagine how much catching up you have to do in the US with the freebies people want. Give me more free stuff, but I don't want to pay for it. The thing of 10 or 15 years ago, when Americans would tell me, Andrew, I don't agree with you. I would gladly live in Norway and pay 57% taxes if I get all these services provided to me. Now it's, well, just give me the services or you pay for it. I don't want to, no. Look at how it's changed in just the last 10 or 15 years. When people were willing to pay for it, now no one's willing to pay for it. Not in the US, not in Canada, not a lot of places. It is shifting. So you need to have, ideally, a second citizenship, especially if you're an American, because they can tighten the screws on you pretty quickly. And you want to make sure you've got a plan to get out of Dodge if you need it. You want to have a place where you can go, ideally have a home, have a second residence permit, have a bank account somewhere else. If you have to report it, if that's the law, I suggest you do that, you follow the law. Reporting's not the issue, having it is. Because there may come a time you say, I'm just fed up with this. The people with the pitchforks are coming. Carl Icahn's talking about it. The average person, the net worth of the median household is basically nothing. I'm not here to say that I take pleasure in that. I wish people were better at saving. I wish people developed their skills more and got better. I wish everyone was thriving. I bet people like Carl Icahn and probably people like you think the same thing. We want everyone to win. When people aren't winning, it's going to become unpleasant. And so when he talks about major problems in our economy, I'm saying, I want to be diversified so that those major problems don't come and hit me entirely in the face.